Abandoned after my husband left me for a 20-year-old, I unexpectedly transformed a life with one. Jenna stood in her empty kitchen, the sharp silence echoing betrayal. She grasped the countertop, breathing in the aroma of fading coffee as if it could somehow anchor her to a reality that felt increasingly alien. The small town of Cedarwood, with its pristine lawns and friendly waves from neighbors, now felt more like a cage than a refuge. Gossip, sharp and unyielding, had become as familiar as the chime of the nearby church bell. "Did you hear about Jenna?" was whispered in grocery aisles, heavy with judgment. Was she not enough? Had years of love and commitment been so easily brushed aside for someone barely out of childhood? As a devoted teacher, she had spent countless hours nurturing young minds. But somehow the warmth of her classroom faded into the cold emptiness of her home. Images of laughter in the school halls transformed into echoes of loneliness. She was that woman, abandoned, alone, clinging to shattered pride while grappling with feelings of inadequacy that sliced deeper than any knife. In a desperate attempt to recollect the fragments of her life, Jenna took refuge in her late grandmother's attic one rainy afternoon. Dust floated like memories as she shuffled through boxes. Then she uncovered it, the painting. A lively sunflower field, vibrant with yellows and greens, resonated with exuberance. She remembered her grandmother, the joyful artist who had painted not just with colors, but with love. The canvas ignited something within Jenna, a long-buried yearning to create. Her heart raced as she envisioned herself picking up a brush once more. Each stroke would untangle emotions, peeling away layers of sorrow, as if she could mix despair with brighter hues and reclaim her joy. Yet, a nagging doubt crept in. Would pursuing this dream mean abandoning her students, her purpose as a teacher? A bitter taste filled her mouth as she mulled the idea of putting herself first, for once. Exploring further into her thoughts, she felt the weight of excitement mingle with guilt. The mere notion of claiming title to artist churned turmoil within her. What if she could carve out a new identity? But at what cost? As she sank deeper into contemplation, a sense of trepidation emerged, the fear that the spark of creativity would lead her away from those who now relied on her. Would she forsake the fragile community she had unwittingly constructed through shared vulnerability? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Standing before her easel, paintbrush trembling in her hand, Jenna felt a surge of terror grip her. An email notification blinked on her phone. A local gallery wanted to showcase her artwork. Heart pounding, she weighed the opportunity against the bonds she had formed, teaching the art classes in her garage. The warmth and connection radiating from those gatherings had brought her more solace than she'd anticipated. Yet, the lure of recognition tantalized her senses. Would stepping into the spotlight dim the vibrant circle she had cultivated? Each breath quickened, heart racing as if caught on the precipice of a life-altering decision. The tightness in her chest signaled an internal battleground of competing desires. Standing in the quiet of her studio, one thought screamed louder than the rest. Who was she, if not the woman who poured out love into her students and community? The morning light spilled into Jenna's studio, illuminating the mess of colors and half-finished canvases. The gallery's invitation nudged at her mind, relentless and tantalizing. She placed the brush down with a tremor, her heart clamoring for clarity. Could she forge a life that was both an artist and a teacher? The guilt of stepping away from her students gnawed at her, but beneath that weight lay a potent desire to explore and redefine herself. What had defined her for so long was no longer enough. As Jenna inhaled deeply, she acknowledged the road that lay ahead was fraught with uncertainty. Each brush stroke needed to speak of her struggle and resilience. In the days that followed, Jenna wrestled with this newfound vision. She committed to painting, each day carving out sacred hours after school. Emotions poured onto the canvas like rain after a drought, vivid and unapologetic. The sunflowers in her grandmother's piece transformed into vibrant self-portraits, each bloom a representation of the layers of her identity. The colors were rich but raw, reflecting her inner turmoil. However, as her creations grew more expressive, the specter of judgment lurked at the edges. Jenna found herself confronted by the whispers of cedarwood. Is it right for a teacher to pursue her dreams so publicly? Would her students find her selfish? The irony of her situation struck hard. For years, she had urged them to follow their passions while now grappling with the very same advice. A flicker of defiance ignited within her. In conversation with her students one afternoon, Jenna decided to open up about her ambitions. The classroom buzzed with excitement as she spoke about her artwork and the gallery. Eager eyes searched her expression, wanting to know more. The moment felt crucial. Embarking on a new journey alongside them could unite them in growth. Perhaps they could encourage one another. "What if you just go for it, Ms. J?" a shy girl named Lily suggested, twirling a paintbrush between her fingers. The simplicity of her words struck Jenna like a bell chime, a reminder that some risks were worth taking, not just for oneself, but for those who looked up to her. With a newfound determination, Jenna vowed to blend her roles. She planned a small exhibition on a Friday evening, inviting her students and their families. It would be a celebration of art, of community, and of exploration. She would teach them about risk-taking while in the midst of facing her own. Reality tinged with excitement, she embraced the fear no longer as an obstacle, but as fuel. As the week progressed, Jenna poured her heart into the exhibition preparations, finding a rhythm in the chaos. With each stroke on her canvas, she discovered not only her voice, but also her strength. The moment she would share her journey with others, to let them see both her vulnerability and her triumph, felt monumental. But with this resolve came a new challenge. Her gallery showing loomed like a storm, both exhilarating and intimidating. What if her art didn't resonate? What if she failed to meet the expectations she had set not only for herself, but also for the small crowd that would gather? Each worry slithered back into her thoughts like a serpent, threatening to coil around her resolve. Standing before her easel late one night, Jenna's reflection stared back at her, a mixture of resolve and fear coursing through her. This was it, the crossroads where she would either grasp her newfound identity or step back into the shadows. The invitation remained emblazoned in her mind, urging her to leap. And just as she stood poised to tackle her internal struggles, another notification pinged on her phone, and this time it revealed something shocking. A familiar name had posted about her exhibition, and their sentiments were anything but supportive. The moment of truth was approaching, but would she have the courage to confront both her past and her burgeoning identity? Jenna's heart raced, a palpable ache settling in her chest as she stared at the screen. The comment was scathing, dripping with sarcasm. It attacked her ambition, questioning her integrity as both a teacher and an artist. The words echoed through her mind, each syllable sharp as glass. How can someone who teaches our kids abandon them for a fleeting dream? Reeling from the sting, Jenna tossed her phone aside and paced her small studio. The vibrant colors that had once inspired her now seemed overwhelming, mocking her efforts to blend art with teaching. Doubt wrapped itself around her like an old, unwelcome coat, whispering lies she knew all too well. Could pursuing her passion truly be a betrayal? Jenna's reflection caught her eye again. The woman staring back was not just a teacher. She was layered, complicated, an artist still emerging from the cocoon of fear. The night before the exhibition, she had painted until her fingers were coated in pigment, creating one final piece that encapsulated her journey. A self-portrait, adorned with sunflowers, the petals echoing her defiant spirit. But now, with the insidious doubt creeping back in, She wondered if revealing that part of herself would open her to more barbs. With a deep breath, she realized that her integrity wasn't solely tied to others' perceptions. This journey was about tapping into her own truth, unapologetically. The community she had envisioned, rooted in shared growth, began to feel like shackles instead. They could either uplift her or pull her down. It would be her choice. Determined to preempt the negativity, Jenna reached out to her closest colleagues, confiding in them about the incident. Their reactions were mixed. Some offered supportive words, while others expressed concern for how her students might perceive her mixed roles. Each response fanned the flames of Jenna's internal conflict, further amplifying her agitation. "Jenna, why not just focus on teaching?" one colleague suggested. "Is art really worth this? What if your students lose respect for you?" The question gnawed at Jenna. Would they? Should she redefine her existence at the risk of receiving their judgment? Or would they ultimately understand the depth of her passion? It stung to think that they might see her as a fraud if she dared to merge her identities. That night, Jenna lay in bed, staring at the ceiling as the shadows loomed around her, contemplating her next move. She thought of Lily's encouragement, how one small voice could stir a chorus of motivation within her. What would it mean to confront both her inner turmoil and the voices from Cedarwood with authenticity? The morning of the exhibition, as Jenna prepared her space, she felt a resolve strengthening within her. She refused to give power to those who sought to diminish her journey. With each painting hung, she was aware of how much her work had grown, how much she had grown. Art was her voice, a language that spoke not just to who she was, but to the lessons she imparted daily. As the time drew closer, Jenna took one last look around, a blend of pride and fear mingling in her chest. This was not merely an exhibition. It was a confrontation against the whispers of self-doubt and judgment. When the first guests began to arrive, Jenna stood at the entrance, taking a deep breath and welcoming them with a smile. Each familiar face was a reminder that while she might be stepping into the unknown, she wasn't entirely alone. But as the crowd filled the space, an unsettling realization crept in. Had she chosen the right person to reveal herself to? Before she could ruminate further, a sharp voice pierced through the chatter, drawing her attention. It was a fellow teacher, known for their brutal honesty. They approached her with a glint of derision in their eye, and for an instant the world around Jenna went silent. The confrontation she had been dreading was about to unfold. Would she stand her ground or retreat? The moment of truth had arrived. Jenna's breath hitched as the teacher approached, their expression a mask of disdain that made her stomach churn. The crowd around her blurred into a dull hum. Her focus zeroed in on this looming confrontation, the very moment she had feared. "What a surprise," the teacher said, the sarcasm thick in their voice. "You decided to prioritize your art over your students. Isn't that a little selfish?" The words drilled into Jenna, laced with judgment. It was a reminder of her vulnerabilities, a wrestling match between her identity as a teacher and her aspirations as an artist. The urge to retreat pulled at her, but the self-portrait behind her whispered the truth of her struggle. "I'm not abandoning my students," Jenna retorted, the tremor in her voice betraying the confidence she fought to project. "I'm teaching them to pursue their passions and be authentic to themselves." The teacher scoffed, their eyes narrowing. "Authenticity? Is this misadventure really the lesson you want to impart? Maybe artists should keep their dreams and responsibilities separate." Jenna's pulse raced, not just from their words, but from the urgency to defend her choices. She had spent too long treading carefully around others' expectations. Each painting represented a layer of her identity, melded with the desire to inspire her students to chase their own dreams. "Art isn't just a side note, it's a vital part of who I am," she asserted, grounding her stance. "If I can't stand by my own truth, how can I teach them to stand by theirs?" The teacher's expression shifted momentarily, a flicker of doubt crossing their face before the derision returned. "You're setting a precarious example. And let's be honest, this They gestured dismissively at her exhibition. This isn't real art for real people. Jenna's heart pounded fiercely in her chest as she fought against the urge to apologize, to shrink back into the safe role of the accommodating teacher. No. This was her moment to assert herself, not just for the words spoken, but for her journey, painstakingly constructed through sweat, seconds spent wrestling with every brushstroke, every fear. I disagree, Jenna replied, her voice steadying, instilling every ounce of conviction into her words. Art is what connects us. It challenges us. If you can't see the value in that, then perhaps it's your perspective that needs reassessment, not my passion. What followed was a sharp breath from the other teacher, a crack in their brace of cynicism. Jenna felt a weight lift. By articulating her truth, she had opened the door to something monumental, not just standing up for her dreams, but also an evolution of confidence. Yet, as the teacher's gaze turned cold, Jenna couldn't shake the sensation of eyes upon her, the anxieties tugging at her peripheral thoughts. Would other colleagues agree or judge? Gaze upon her as she felt they were doing the judging teacher? As new voices began to rise from the crowd, mingled with celebrations of Jenna's work, a stirring sense of purpose replaced the uncertainty within her. She began to realize that authenticity often draws scrutiny, yet the journey through resistance shapes resilience. With renewed conviction, Jenna turned back towards her art. This moment would not define her. Rather, it was the outer manifestation of her evolution. The paintings, her soul, beckoned, inviting her into a realm where she could weave in her experiences both as a teacher and as an artist. Her mind raced with exhilarating possibility. What if this was just the beginning? Could other teachers be inspired to embrace their duality? What if she became a bridge, a conversation starter between art and education that could reshape their understanding of passion? As Jenna absorbed the fascination of her guests, a new clarity began to form. Each hesitant brushstroke on that canvas could lead to a greater purpose, a merging of worlds rather than a division. But before she could delve deeper into this revelation, another familiar face appeared in the doorway. Lily stood there, wide-eyed, a mixture of awe and something darker looming in her expression. Jenna's heart sank as she realized that this moment of triumph might also be a moment of reckoning for her friend. With tension brewing in the air, Jenna knew that not all was resolved. What would this encounter with Lily reveal? As she navigated her burgeoning identity and the shifting dynamics with her friend, another layer of her resolve would soon be tested. Jenna felt the weight of Lily's gaze draw her away from the warmth of applause. She could hardly breathe as curiosity and dread collided within her. There was a significant distance between them now, a line drawn not just by choice, but by the contrasting paths they seemed to be wandering. "Hey," Jenna said, trying to infuse her voice with nonchalance, though it came out as a tremor. She motioned for Lily to come closer, but Lily remained still, rooted at the entrance. The vibrant chatter around them faded into the background, and Jenna felt isolated in her moment of triumph. "What are you doing here?" Lily's words cut through the silence, taut and tremulous. It wasn't a question. It was an open wound. Jenna searched her friend's unguarded expression, noting the shadows of frustration and confusion that danced across Lily's face. "I came to share my work," Jenna replied, attempting to weave reassurance into her tone. "This means a lot to me. Showing my art, being true to myself." "True to yourself?" Lily echoed, skepticism rippling through her voice. "Is that really what you think this is? A showcase of truth?" She gestured at the colorful canvases, but the bright hues seemed to darken in the crossfire of their conflict. Jenna's heart raced as she sensed the challenge inherent in Lily's words. It was an unwelcome scrutiny she had just fought against moments ago. How could she articulate what her art meant to her when someone she valued so highly was staring daggers at it? "It's not just about me," Jenna pressed, her pulse quickening. "These paintings are about inspiration, about courage and—" Courage? The bitterness in Lily's voice cut deeper. If you really cared about teaching and your students, you wouldn't be off painting selfies instead of helping them. The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Jenna winced, an ache piercing her chest. Lily's words reverberated with the teacher's earlier criticism, redefining her success through someone else's lens of judgment. The color of pride she had felt just moments ago dulled, twisting into something almost unrecognizable. "I am helping them," Jenna insisted, each word a calculated defense against the growing self-doubt. "By letting them see that dreams can coexist with responsibilities. I want them to know they can embrace their passions." Lily's expression hardened, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of conflict within. What if they think they have to choose, that you've abandoned them for your own selfish needs? The question gnawed at Jenna. Perhaps there was an uncomfortable truth hiding beneath it. What if she had turned her back on her students? The sudden thought felt like betrayal. "Only if they don't see the whole picture," Jenna replied, striving to stay grounded. "They're learning to look beyond the superficial and find their authenticity. Isn't that what we both wanted?" "But at what cost?" Lily shot back, her voice softening, as if she were trying to find common ground. "You're risking everything you worked for, your credibility, your responsibility to them." The tension between them crackled, and for the first time, Jenna felt the force of her choices echo back at her. Was she truly risking it all for the sake of her art? Or was her art destined to become a point of contention? Lost in contemplation, Jenna took a step forward, determined to bridge the widening gap. "I believe that being fulfilled as an artist can still make me a better teacher. I'm not giving up on them. I'm fighting for both." "Are you?" Lily asked, her voice a whisper now, carrying a mix of doubt and longing. "Or are you just trying to escape?" The room swirled around Jenna. She recognized the confrontation for what it was, a reckoning, forcing her to confront the fragility of her newfound identity. Underneath her art lay a fragile self that felt entirely vulnerable to rejection. As the uncomfortable silence stretched between them, Jenna weighed her next words carefully. "Can't you trust me enough to challenge that idea? To be part of a new conversation in education?" Lily's face flickered, revealing a melange of emotions, doubt, fear, and perhaps a longing to understand. But before anything else could develop, the previous sentiments in the air hung ominously. What would it mean if she truly faced down the depths of their conflict? How could she reconcile her own journey with the expectations of her role, both as an artist and a teacher? As Jenna searched for the right words, hoping to navigate through this emotional undercurrent, another voice began to interrupt their charged moment. A former colleague, someone close to her heart, had stepped closer, doubt collected in their gaze. "Is everything okay?" they asked, concern sewn into their expression. Jenna's gut twisted. The public nature of her struggle loomed large, and suddenly the stakes felt much higher. Jenna could feel the tide of scrutiny shifting. She was standing at the precipice of change. She could either lean into this challenging moment or retreat, leaving her duality once again unresolved. But how much more of herself was she willing to reveal? Would she become a conduit for honesty, developing as a teacher through the act of creation? As layers of personal conflict unfolded, one question bubbled to the surface, waiting for an answer. What was the line she had to draw between the artist and the educator, and where would she go from here? Jenna felt the familiar pang of self-doubt settle heavily in her chest as she faced her former colleague. The warmth of the earlier crowd seemed a distant memory, and now the whir of conversation blurred into a dull hum that only heightened her isolation. "Yeah, we're fine," she replied with forced brightness, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. She glanced back at Lily, who watched her with an expression that balanced on the precipice of disappointment and concern. "Just wanted to check in," her colleague said, eyes flickering between Jenna and Lily. "You know, it's a big step. Art and teaching, they can clash sometimes." Jenna felt the weight of those words settle over her, a reminder of the competing identities she was desperately trying to juggle. She forced a smile, but her mind raced, grappling with the sharp critique wrapped in the colleague's observation. Sometimes, but they can also blend beautifully, she countered, her voice firmer than she felt. I really believe that. Lily exhaled sharply, folding her arms as she prepared to re-enter the fray. But at what point does it become detrimental? When do you draw the line between being an artist and being a responsible teacher? Jenna's heart quickened. It felt like a spotlight illuminating all the uncertainties she had tried to keep hidden. Personal aspirations versus professional obligations. The apprehension lodged in her stomach was disconcerting, and yet something deep within her stirred in rebellion. She pushed back against the wave of doubt, determined to stand her ground. What if exploring my art makes me a better teacher? Jenna suggested, her voice steadier now. What if my students see that taking risks and embracing creativity is part of being alive? I've struggled with their creativity for too long. I want them to witness all facets of fulfillment. Lily pinched her lips together, clearly torn. Jenna's words hung in the air, lingering between them like a challenge. I just don't want you to lose sight of what's important, Lily finally said, her tone softening. We're in a profession where students are depending on us. That struck a chord in Jenna. Dependence. Her heart raced as she met Lily's gaze, sensing a connection waiting to be reborn, yet shrouded by misunderstanding and fear. She couldn't remember the last time they had shared their true selves with each other. Lily, I'm not abandoning them, Jenna said, deeply earnest. I'm confident that exploring my own growth can provide invaluable lessons for them. I won't just be an instructor. I can be a living example of passion. The certainty in her voice began to melt the tension between them, even as her mind looped through the possibilities of failure. An uncharted territory that felt exhilarating and terrifying infused her, raising questions about her choices, but also revealing newfound resolve. Taking a deep breath, Jenna glanced back at the art that had once symbolized her triumph. The colors didn't seem as daunting now, but rather vibrant echoes of what she longed to convey, not just to her students, but to herself. The apprehension still lingered, however, as doubt reared its ugly head once more. Was she truly equipped to balance these two worlds? Life as an artist could spiral into chaos just as easily as it could thrive. What if she overwhelmed herself? As the silence enveloped them once more, picking up the shards of their earlier conflict felt daunting. Her own fears suddenly coalesced into focus, and Jenna realized she needed to face these uncertainties head-on rather than shy away from them. Success was not simply about continuing the routine, it was about growth and facing challenges at their core. Lily, she finally said, do you really think I could walk both paths? Could I find a way to be true to who I am without sacrificing my responsibilities? The resolute honesty in Jenna's voice pierced through the lingering tension. Beneath the questioning lay a commitment to herself she was ready to bring into the world. She felt a new kind of clarity washing over her, awakening the subtle excitement of potential failure intertwined with the understanding that authenticity might be her greatest asset. And in that moment, Jenna grasped that she stood at the crossroads of her life, a delicate yet powerful juncture that could redefine everything she thought she knew about teaching and art. But the deeper pull of those uncertainties echoed still. What if she fell? What if she couldn't reclaim her place? Just then, the sound of applause erupted from another area in the venue, signaling another artist's triumph. The moment was palpable, blending reverberations of success with the shadow of doubt riding along with it. For Jenna, the choice was clear. She either built the courage to face her fears and redefine her path, or she risked surrendering to them, which could mean losing everything she had just begun to grasp. Would she truly have the courage to step beyond the confines of expectation and embrace vulnerability in both roles, or spiral into the comforting yet stifling embrace of conformity? The next chapter awaited, a pivotal turning point that could either illuminate her way forward or cast shadows over her choices. What would she choose? Jenna stood in the stillness of the moment, the echoes of applause mingling with her racing thoughts. The energy pulsing around her felt both intoxicating and terrifying, igniting a fire of determination deep within. She had reached a threshold. The need for change was not merely a whisper anymore. It screamed at her to listen. As she glanced between Lily and her former colleague, the pressure of their expectations clashed violently with her newfound sense of self. Deep down, she understood that showing her students her passion would involve more than demonstrations. It required vulnerability, and the prospect sent shivers down her spine. What if they saw her flaws? What if her journey revealed insecurities that questioned her competence? But hesitation transformed into resolve as Jenna remembered why she had wanted this path in the first place. Teaching was not just a job. It was her calling. If she wanted her students to feel empowered to create, to express themselves authentically, she must first embody that freedom. Reclaiming her artist's identity was no longer an impulsive flirtation. It became an essential step on her journey toward genuine self-discovery. "I need to connect with my art again," she murmured, almost to herself. The weight of her words drew Lily's attention back to her. "What do you mean?" Lily asked, the concern giving way to curiosity. "I have to stop seeing art and teaching as competing forces," Jenna explained, finding clarity in her speech. "They can coexist, but only if I allow them to. I need to integrate my creative process into my teaching, let them inspire each other." Lily's eyes widened slightly, and Jenna felt a flicker of hope igniting. "Maybe I could start a project with the students," Jenna suggested, each new idea bolstering her resolve. "An art exhibition where they can explore their identities through various forms of creation, writing, painting, even digital art. It would showcase their voices while allowing me to express my own." The more she spoke, the more her voice steadied. Each word dissolved the remnants of doubt lingering in her mind, revealing not just a plan, but a blueprint that tied her passions together. "Creating a space where they can witness my journey, where I can also learn from their perspectives. Maybe that's what I've been missing," Jenna said, articulating her thoughts more confidently with each breath. Lily's expression softened. The skepticism that had hovered between them began to dissipate. "I think that could work, but—" "But?" Jenna interrupted, hearing the caution in her friend's voice. "We need to make sure that it's truly about the students. Your journey could inspire them, but it cannot overshadow their voices," Lily warned, her tone serious. Jenna nodded, fully understanding the gravity of the responsibility she carried as a teacher. "I want my experiences to serve them, to give them courage. It can't be just about me." This realization simmered in her, a click that tied multiple threads of her life into a cohesive whole. As unsettling as the task ahead of her would become, the craving to nurture her students' artistry and individuality was more potent than the fear of uncertainty. Yet, amidst the clarity, Jenna felt a sudden flicker of insecurity slip in. What if this vision collapsed under the weight of her dual identity? Could she indeed create an environment where her exploration didn't eclipse her students' needs? The answer hung tantalizingly in the air. With brewing curiosity, she considered how her personal journey could inspire her students while acknowledging their challenges. She would have to face them with authenticity, reinforcing the importance of resilience in both art and education. "Let's do this," Jenna said finally, turning back to Lily with a newfound spark. "I need you on board. Your support means everything." The two women locked eyes, the moment of shared understanding weaving a fragile yet significant bridge between their individual hopes and fears. Just as a smile began to break the tension, the applause rang out once more, a stirring reminder of the risks inherent in the world of artistry. Jenna felt an electric thrill course through her veins, a combination of anticipation and dread intertwined with excitement. She had not just decided to integrate her roles, but committed to face whatever storms lay ahead with determination and vulnerability. And as she opened herself up to the possibility, a sudden thought struck her. What if this first step was only the beginning? What awaited her at the intersection of art and teaching? Would she emerge as a stronger role model, or risk both facets of herself in ways she could never predict? With her heart racing, Jenna stepped deeper into the crowd, her senses alive. A flurry of possibilities churned in her mind, like paint on a palette, laying the foundation for a transformation she could scarcely envision. The paths before her spiraled in infinite directions, teetering on the edge of both hope and fear. As she prepared to embrace her next chapter, Jenna wondered, what awaited her on this creative journey, and would she have the strength to embrace all it could offer? Jenna returned to her classroom the next day with a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. The chatter of students filled the air, but it felt different now, as though each voice was a note strumming the chords of her ambitions. She took a moment to absorb it all, her heart racing as she considered how to translate her vision into a tangible project. But self-doubt nestled uncomfortably at the back of her mind, casting shadows over her hopes. As the students settled, Jenna cleared her throat, preparing to speak. She opted for honesty. "I have something exciting in mind for us this semester," she announced, trying to mask her trembling voice with a confident front. "A project that focuses on art and self-discovery." Curiosity sparked in the classroom as she elaborated. "We'll create an exhibition, one that explores our identities through different mediums. Each person will have the chance to express themselves uniquely, and I'll share my journey along the way." Jenna's voice quivered slightly, but she pushed through. A wave of questions arose like ripples in water, some students eager, others skeptical. She welcomed every inquiry, treating their doubts as legitimate, reflecting her own inner turmoil. Jenna saw their eyes flicker with doubt, mirroring her fears. "Will you be open and share your story?" one student asked. "What if it isn't good enough?" another murmured. Jenna felt the weight of their concerns settle over her, pressing against her chest. "I'm still figuring things out, just like you. None of us are perfect, and that's precisely where art thrives." As the class progressed, she sensed the energy shift. Students began to engage with their ideas, sharing emotions that had been buried under layers of expectation. Jenna facilitated discussions, guiding them through probing questions, realizing that every moment she spent listening and encouraging helped piece together her own fragmented confidence. But uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud when she confronted her work from the past year. Today, she retrieved old sketches and pieces of art that had served as her personal sanctuary. Each piece represented a story: joy, despair, triumph, and struggle. She scrutinized them, wondering how to use them in a way that would not overshadow her students. To integrate her artistic journey into the project without overshadowing theirs, Jenna decided to create a separate piece collaboratively with her students. "What if we did something together?" she proposed during their next class. "A piece that reflects our growth, not just mine, but all of ours. We could start a mural outside the school where everyone's voices come together." The room erupted with enthusiasm, their initial hesitations melting away. Ideas sparked furiously among them like a wildfire. Jenna felt exhilarated, their excitement fueled her own. Perhaps this moment could be transformational, not only for her students, but for her as well. But the deeper she got into the project, the harder it became to balance her role as a guide with her own desire for validation. As the mural took shape, it became a battleground of identities. Jenna's self-expression risked overtaking the collective creativity of her students. Late nights spent sketching ideas led her down a precarious path of comparison. Was she pushing them forward or pulling herself into a spotlight she didn't deserve? The mounting pressure weighed heavily on her spirit. As the unveiling day drew closer, Jenna began to question whether she was the one shaping young artists or merely attempting to showcase her own. With only a week left until the exhibit, the stakes rose dramatically. Would she sacrifice her creative expression for the sake of her students' identities? Or would her unresolved desire for recognition overshadow everything? As she stood before the unfinished mural one afternoon, its vibrant colors whispering the stories of her students, Jenna contemplated the delicate balance of ambition and humility. Could she truly foster a space where every voice mattered equally, including her own? With her artistic integrity on the line, Jenna realized she had to make a choice that could change the entire course of her project and potentially herself. She felt compelled to reach deep within, questioning her motivations and the role she was playing. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over their mural, Jenna gathered her thoughts for what was to come. In that moment of quiet reflection, she wondered if the journey was leading her to a threshold, one that would challenge everything she believed about herself as a teacher and as an artist. What would it take for her to embrace both aspects of her identity without overshadowing those she wished to guide? The answer hung tantalizingly in the air, waiting for her to grasp it. The following week was a blur of frantic energy and self-examination. As the deadline loomed, Jenna's thoughts ricocheted between excitement for the mural's completion and the ever-growing dread that her focus had strayed dangerously close to self-indulgence. The colors splashed on the wall sang the stories of her students, yet she felt an insatiable urge to interject her narrative into their symphony. She found herself staying late at school, sketching ideas and painting samples that echoed her past experiences. With each stroke of the brush, she relived memories, broken fragments of her artistry that were both painful and cathartic. Her students didn't need a seasoned artist. They needed a guide, a listening ear to their struggles. Yet here she was, grappling for attention in the chorus of their voices. During one particularly late evening, Jenna realized she had lost track of time. The clock ticked toward midnight as she stood before the mural, staring at what she had created. The vibrant intermingling of colors told vivid stories, each hue representing a different student's voice. Yet nestled within the nuances of their expressions lay her fear of being overlooked. Her hands trembled as she considered the final layer of paint. Would she be defacing their work by inserting her fingerprint into their collective masterpiece? That night, Jenna awoke abruptly, a gnawing thought intruding on her sleep. She tossed and turned, questioning everything. Why had she felt the need to turn the mural into a reflection of her own journey? Wasn't this project supposed to be about unearthing the strengths, fears, and identities of her students? In stark contrast to her intentions, she realized she was placing her need for recognition above their exploration. The next day in class, Jenna made a decision. As her students assembled, she felt the weight of responsibility settle upon her. "I want to be transparent with you all," she began, the sincerity in her eyes cutting through the initial whispers of skepticism. "I've been so caught up in trying to create something meaningful out of my own experiences that I've lost sight of why we started this project." The room fell into a contemplative silence. "This mural isn't just about me or the things I've gone through. It's about each of you discovering who you are and what you want to say through your art." She observed their faces as they absorbed her words, some nodding, others appearing contemplative. It was in that moment Jenna saw a flicker of understanding reflected back at her. Perhaps admitting her struggles wasn't weakness. It could be a vital connection point in this journey together. With renewed determination, she invited the students to reclaim spaces they felt had been overshadowed. "Let's take a moment today to revise the mural together. Remove my imprint. Each of you deserves to shine without my overlays." The students sprang into action, one by one, erasing sections Jenna felt tied too closely to her narrative. It felt liberating, yet terrifying, a profound act of trust. Through this deconstruction, the mural evolved, embracing stories of budding artists unafraid to share their grief, joy, and passions. Jenna felt herself stepping back into a supportive role, not leading from the front, but standing alongside them. As colors vibrantly came back to life, so did Jenna's understanding of her role, guiding, not eclipsing. But even as joy filled the studio, she felt an unsettled question brew within her. Had she truly surrendered her desire for recognition, or had she simply buried it under collaborative endeavors? With the unveiling just days away, Jenna needed to confront her remaining doubts head-on. Could she genuinely celebrate her students' accomplishments while embracing her own? The final canvas awaited their stories, yet Jenna couldn't shake the sense she was still on the precipice of uncovering her authentic self. As she stood before the mural, newly transformed yet still incomplete, the weight of her journey ahead loomed. How would she manifest both her personal growth and her role as a mentor in the final days leading to the exhibit? The moment for her to reconcile these parts of her identity was quickly approaching, and Jenna realized it was not just the mural but herself that required the final touch. In the days leading up to the unveiling of the mural, Jenna witnessed her students engage with the creative process in ways she hadn't anticipated. With each passing hour, they painted their authenticity onto the wall, channeling dreams and emotions that had once laid dormant. As Jenna stepped back, she recognized the profound shift not only in her students, but in herself. The pressure of approval began to dissolve, replaced by an empowering realization. The act of teaching is most potent when it liberates others to express themselves fully. On the day of the unveiling, Jenna stood at the front of the classroom, heart pounding with exhilarating anticipation. The mural loomed behind her, a vivid testament to their collective journey. Her nerves shifted, replacing anxiety with pride as she surveyed the excited faces of her students. They were not just participants, they were the storytellers, and Jenna had become the facilitator who had learned to listen. As the curtains drew back, gasps filled the air. Awash in color, the mural shimmered under the bright lights, each section pulsating with life and personality. Jenna smiled, her eyes shimmering with tears. She was completely awed by what they'd created together. But this wasn't just their success. It was a bedrock for her personal growth, a realization that her expertise as a teacher and passion for art could exist harmoniously. Then came the moment of truth. Jenna's students presented their individual pieces, sharing the stories that animated their sections of the mural. Each story carried a weight and a brightness that transcended mere walls. With every voice that rose in confidence, Jenna felt herself unfurling, shedding the last remnants of self-doubt. She had created a safe haven for them. Her initial fears no longer boxed her in, but instead paved the way for collaborative exploration. "This isn't just a lesson in art," Jenna stated, her voice steadier than ever, filled with authority and warmth. "This mural embodies passion, struggle, and a shared journey. Each of you has contributed something unique to this, a part of yourselves that can inspire others." The applause that followed felt like a chorus colliding with her attention. Students cheered for one another, their joys intertwining and multiplying, revealing how transformative the process had been for each of them. Jenna had stepped aside from the pedestal of recognition she once sought. By placing her students at the forefront, she reclaimed her identity, intertwining it aptly with theirs. Post-unveiling, Jenna received glowing praise from faculty and community members alike. The local newspaper published an article highlighting the mural and its impact, lauding Jenna's innovative teaching methods that embraced the dual roles of mentor and artist. She took every commendation with quiet pride, acknowledging her own evolution with a newfound confidence. Days turned into weeks, and Jenna felt her place as both an artist and teacher solidify, an intertwining of identities she had once held with trepidation. Students approached her with inspiration, illuminated in their eyes as they began to express their ambitions through art, crucially informed by the lessons Jenna had imparted. She witnessed them apply creativity in myriad school projects and even during informal conversations. Jenna enrolled herself in community art shows and attended workshops to refine her skills further, no longer merely as a teacher, but as a burgeoning artist dedicated to her craft. She realized her initial fear of judgment never vanished. It simply became a lesson in resilience. One day, at a local gallery, Jenna proudly stood beside one of her own displays, a collection of work inspired by the journey she and her students had taken. Merging her experiences with their growth had birthed something new. People admired the vivid colors and raw emotions. They lingered before her pieces, connecting with their messages deeply. A sentiment of fulfillment coursed through her, igniting the solid confidence she now carried. In that moment, with her art recognized, Jenna understood that this victory wasn't fleeting. She had solidified her identity, embracing her artistic calling while championing the next generation of creators. The feeling of accomplishment felt different now. It was layered with gratitude and responsibility. No longer chained to the fear of abandonment, she had cultivated a rich, fruitful garden where she could grow continuously, rebirthing pieces of art intertwined with her evolving identity. Jenna beamed, reflecting on how at one time an uncertain heart had feared pursuing her passions. But here, standing amid her work, she proved she could be both an artist and a devoted teacher. It was not just a balancing act, but rather a beautiful blending of two worlds. As she stepped out of the gallery that day, the world shifted around her. The hum of life felt invigorating, and Jenna embraced it fully, confident in her journey ahead. Now, dear audience, this is your moment to support stories of personal transformation. You need to subscribe now to witness more emotional journeys like Jenna's. Leave a like at this very second to ensure you never miss a story that traverses the landscape of human spirit. Comment below with your thoughts, insights, and theories about Jenna's inspiring journey. And if you found this tale meaningful, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a reminder of the power of perseverance and growth. Your engagement is crucial in spreading these narratives of overcoming.